Jupiter into Gemini is good for everyone, regardless of your sign. So the way to think about astrology is it's happening inside of you. Think about, and again, it's metaphorical, but there's also some truth here. Think about Jupiter being inside of you. Everyone lives in the solar system. We all share the same solar system. And the planets impact us somehow. We don't exactly understand how, but they do. Just like the sun and the moon impact us, being on the earth impacts us. So somehow the planets matter in our lives. We just don't exactly understand how. Somehow, not only are they out there, way up there, sometimes we can see them, sometimes we can't. But if they're impacting us, they're also in here. They come across, whether you even know about astrology, you will feel drawn to do stuff. You will feel compelled to pay attention to certain things. You will feel more confidence at certain times. You'll feel a little less confident at others. But then your attention can shift to something else that's not so much about confidence. It's about, ducking your head and working. Or sometimes you just feel really talkative and sometimes you don't. Sometimes people seem to hear you and sometimes they don't. This is just normal life. You remove the astrology from it. It's just normal life. You pull the astrology in, the way you do it is understand all the stuff. These are things happening inside of you, tendencies that happen inside of you, interests that happen inside of you, disinterests that happen inside of you. So Jupiter, back to Jupiter in Gemini, Jupiter's moving from a time in Taurus where many people felt compelled to think about what comfort means in their own lives. They felt compelled to see more clearly whether they were comfortable or not, whether the system they were living in makes them feel comfortable or not. So it makes Jupiter in Taurus, along with Uranus and some other factors, has been a time of noticing, hey, I'm no longer comfortable here, or I think that over there would make me comfortable. How do I get there? Now, with Jupiter moving into Gemini, Uranus for the time being is still in Taurus, and those two planets together were very powerful in Taurus. Now Jupiter into Gemini means for everyone communication. It's plain communication, and figuring out communication in a new way. Expanding communication, understanding how to communicate, new communication devices, maybe. So there's the outer world will display Jupiter in Gemini in its own ways, probably to do with technology, new technologies, an expansion of some sort. Communication will become very important, and you'll probably see a lot of innovation and changes in the realm of how we communicate, how we get our news. There have already been shakeups here, but they're going to be more. But all in all, people will probably like the way things are evolving. So if some kind of external way you communicate seems to fall, something else is going to come in that's going to be better. But let's go back to you. Internally, you're going to feel compelled to be more expressive somehow, and or gobble up news and information, and you'll find new ways to do that. It's probably going to be a little of both, depending on the person, what your preferred mixture of that is. Some people will be like, I'm all about being more talkative and expressing myself. Some people, maybe introverts, or people who just are more private, they're going to be gobbling up and consuming information more at a rapid pace or in a new way from new resources. So in a nutshell, those are the compulsions. But depending on how it hits your chart, there are going to be very specific ways Jupiter is going to act. I would say, notice how you feel. it always goes back to notice what you feel drawn to do. Do you feel suddenly like speaking up? This is a time to do it. Jupiter brings you help with that. Do you feel like reading more books? Is there a certain kind of book that you want to read? Do it. Just notice what you feel compelled to do in your individual chart. If you look at your chart online, there are a bunch of free resources to pull up your own chart. You can learn the symbols. You can see where this particular Jupiter influence is going to hit your chart. So for some people, it's going to be suddenly very lucky in business, maybe financially, maybe friends, maybe just you feel internally more together and happier than you have in a long time. Maybe you buy a new house or you decorate, maybe you have a child, maybe you really develops a taste in art and you're purchasing art, or you really want to spend things that are about beauty and harmony. Maybe that's how you make your living. If you're a Gemini, it is traditionally thought to be very lucky when Jupiter comes into your sign. And so whether Jupiter is your sun, your rising, your moon, it's generally thought to be quite good. And certainly in my lifetime, I've noticed that to be true. So it's a time of kind of this lovely energy that comes in where things tend to go your way. This would be true for all the air signs, especially, and even the fire signs by association, but it's lucky for everyone. Jupiter's a wonderful influence to enjoy wherever it is in your chart, whatever it's influencing. So everybody has a piece of Jupiter, and the influence of Jupiter is just moved into kind of a new set of compulsions that people will feel. And I talk about the zodiac signs as being the backdrop. So we've moved from a pastoral park setting, or like Central Park, think Central Park or a big park area near you. We've moved from that setting to a newsroom, like your good old-fashioned movie version of a newsroom. And that's sort of the feel, the buzz, or a big busy marketplace. If you think of Europe or the Middle East, where they have these well, really everywhere, except for the US for some reason, but we have these common marketplaces. If you think of movies or plays you've been to, they capture that feeling really well, because that's what the set designer and the director, that's what they want to capture. And so think about a busy marketplace of ideas, even goods, but it's that throng of people connecting together and interacting in a certain way that produces a certain vibe and maybe even result. So how could you use this in your life? What do you feel? How do you know? You go inward. What do you feel compelled to do? If you feel stuck, if you feel nothingness, then that's probably a sign that you may need medical attention. And I don't say that to dismiss anyone. It's really, if you feel totally numb and you really don't know, you may be seriously burned out, seriously fatigued. You may actually have a condition that brings that on, virus. So if you're really not feeling any compulsion at all, or any ideas around this, then I would say there's something probably physically, medically, mentally, physically, medically, maybe spiritually, that needs attention. I would point you toward my videos that are more about wellness and intuitive medicine, and happiness tips. And I'll be making more of those so that you can start to self-analyze, notice what you need. Because if you know, after working with clients for years and years and years, I know that when someone's feeling that kind of deadness, numbness, they need some other kind of attention. Astrology is not going to give it to you until you can get that other care, like the immediate care you need, you know, getting enough rest. Some people are just so exhausted. Some people are emotionally exhausted and maybe in grief. And you need to heal from those things before maybe some of the other stuff comes. So if you're not feeling any of this, you need some, I think, some critical urgent care. And that doesn't mean you have to go to the hospital or rush out and hire a doctor. It means you got to figure out, what is it? Did I just experience the loss of a loved one? Or even if that was last year, even if it was 2 years ago, you know, that can feel like I just lost a loved one. Even if it was 3 years ago, grief has its own timeline. Burnout and fatigue has its own timeline for healing. So what do you need? And that's something we can talk about in other videos that aren't so much astrology oriented. And yeah, that's why I'm back here, is intuitive medicine. And astrology is interesting, but you can't do much with it if you're feeling lousy and you're feeling kind of dead inside, or everything about the future or coming up with ideas just feels like darkness and dragons. You know, you've got to heal yourself first. And there are ways you can begin to do that on your own. You may need a doctor, but maybe you can start to do some things for yourself. All right, take care, everybody. Happy Jupiter into Gemini.